Okay, well, it seems like in the One Piece story, everybody's got a bounty now. Everybody's a clone, and everybody's got a bounty. It's all coalescing into Oda's master plan, ladies and gentlemen. Well, since the pirates now have bounties, and since the Marines now have bounties, I thought it would be, pertinent to issue bounties to Barry, as well as the plant, as well as the bee, as well as old Tony's mop over here. Okay, how many berries is old Tony's mop worth? I'll grant it to you, it might not seem like much, but it was made in the US of A in Omaha, Nebraska, and it has slayed quite a few elementals in its day, okay? I'm gonna issue old Tony's mop at 300 million berries. I think Luffy's bounty post Enies Lobby after he defeated Rob Lucci. I think that's the appropriate amount for the mop here. Perry the plant, I think a good 700 million berries for Perry. Benson the bee or whatever. His name changes every single time. I'm thinking 2 billion for the bee. This is a dangerous bee. He can sting you, okay? So, yeah. And Barry himself. Oh, God. All right. I honestly don't think there's enough money that exists, not just in the One Piece world, but in every fictional universe put together. I don't think there's enough money to properly reach the bounty that Barry would be worth. But just for argument's sake, 999 Googleplex worth of berries. There you go. That's, once again, not even close to 1% of what Barry is truly worth, but eventually there's just no number high enough. You know what I mean? All right. So there are the bounties. Do them with what you will. Okay. So, yes, today we are going to be talking about the bounties that were issued to the Marines. This is weird because this was something that was discussed in One Piece like months ago. And I was like, I remember reading that chapter and being like, ooh, Marines have bounties now. That's an interesting topic for a video. And then months went by and I just forgot about it. And then here we are. I know Liam over at Grand Line Review made a video about this. O'Hara made a video about this about a month or so ago on his channel, and they covered the big topics that everybody wanted to discuss, which is what would the bounties of the admirals be? Because as soon as you hear Marines have bounties, you have Crocodile, Mihawk, and Buggy all coming together to form the Cross Guild, and they're issuing bounties on Marines. It's like, oh, okay, what's Akainu's? What's Kizaru's? What's Fujitori's? What's Garp's bounty going to be? And they go into it and they discuss that in their individual videos. But what I really wanted to tackle in this video was not so much just the Admiral bounties. We'll address that. But it's more of just, I think the bigger picture here of what the Cross Guild is trying to do. I don't think it's so much they're issuing bounties for the Admirals, like Crocodile's yeah, we'll issue a bounty for Akainu, and then some bounty hunter will show up and bring Akainu into us, yeah. I honestly don't think they're trying to go that angle with it. If somebody were to do that, if there was a really strong bounty hunter or really strong pirate somewhere in the world and they managed to defeat Akainu and bring him into the Cross Guild, that's great for them. But honestly, what I think they're trying to do is to upset the status quo in the world. They're trying to take that status quo that the world government has established for centuries upon centuries upon centuries upon centuries and flip that on its head. And no other organization has really attempted to do that. The revolutionaries obviously are directly opposing the Tenryubito, but they're going about it from a revolution freedom fighter sort of way. They're going to each of the islands that are cruelly oppressed by kings and queens working for the world government, and they're liberating them and giving power to the people and all that kind of jazz, right? Meanwhile, you have an organization like the Cross Guild, which is, just a pirate organization run by pirates, and their goal right now, I think, is to just kind of give a middle finger to the world government, right? And so you got to think about it this way. The world government, as they are the world government, are in control of pretty much the entire world. Not the whole thing. There are a lot of islands that are not allied with the world government, but the islands that are not allied with the world government are honestly more like lawless lands that are usually ravaged by pirates, and the Marines don't come and help them and everything like that. So really the options are, if you're a civilian in the One Piece world, be part of a kingdom that's allied with the world government, and then pay the exorbitant tax every year for the heavenly tribute, or live, take your chances in the lawless land. Now, you might get lucky and live in a place like Sphinx Island, which is guarded by Marco, who's a really nice guy, and he'll make sure that you're protected and taken care of and everything like that, and use his revival flames to heal your boo-boos if you fall down and everything like that. That's if you get lucky, all right? But odds are you're probably going to be living in a lawless land that's just ravaged by pirates, and they just attack the place and pillage it all the time, and the Marines don't really care. And so one of the ironclad rules of the One Piece world is that piracy is illegal. That's something that the world government outlawed. That's the reason the Marines exist, is to fight pirates, okay? And to that end, they issue the bounties. Have a bounty right here. We have Killer's bounty. We have, the guy Murder Machine Killer, who, by the way, honestly has one of the coolest epithets in the entire story. Not just is his name Killer, but his actual, epithet is Murder Machine. So it's like, all right, kind of putting a hat on a hat there. But anyway, you guys like, hey, yeah, we're the world government. We're the Marines. And guess what? There's this pirate out there named Killer. You better bring him in. Piracy's illegal, right? So the Cross Guild is like, screw you. You know what we're going to do? We're going to get a bunch of funds together. We're going to get a bunch of capital together. And then we're going to start issuing bounties on the Marines. All right? And you have to understand the underlying factor here is money, because, if the civilians of the One Piece world, especially those that are living in the lawless lands, like the bounty hunters and stuff out in the middle of the lands that don't have, an allegiance with the world government, they get those bounties for the Marines, just like, oh, if I bring in, Kobe, or if I bring in Momonga, well, you're not going to be able to bring in Momonga. He's way too powerful. But, it's like, oh, Captain Gorilla. Yeah, Gorilla, he was the dude that was the Marine at Baltimore. He was the one that saw Frankie as the burning beast of Baltimore. That was that dude, okay? So it's like, oh, if I bring in Captain Gorilla, I'm going to get this much money. All right, I'm going to go do that now. So that's really what they're attempting to do. More than anything, I think they're trying to cause more problems for the Marines as basically a distraction. I don't know if Mihawk, Crocodile, and Buggy are seriously thinking that, the big shots of the Marines, like the admirals, Fleet Admiral Sakazuki, and the Vice Admirals, are going to be brought in via their bounty, plan or anything like that, issuing bounties for them. I don't really think they're expecting that so much. I think they're just expecting to cause chaos, so it makes it easier for them to do their thing, okay? It's like, hey, we have our own plan, our own strategy. Let's just issue bounties on Marines, because while this is going on, all the civilians, all the pirates of the world, you got to think about it this way, all right? So when a pirate crew, not like a supernova or anything like that, just a regular pirate crew encounters a Marine ship, I would imagine most of the time they would try to avoid it, right? Because they don't want to fight against the Marines. Now, if they get cornered, they're going to fight back. Let's say the pirates win, all right? Let's say there's a pirate, it's like, I am Captain Cornelius Crunch. It's just like, oh, we have a Marine attacking us, Captain Crunch. It's like, all right, time to bust out a complete breakfast on them. Cereal pirates, let's rally. You know what I mean? He has a giant spoon. He's like Kiryu Hikefune from Bleach. He's like, I have a giant spoon. Let's go fight, mateys, right? So let's say, the Captain Crunch and the cereal pirates defeat the Marines. What do they really get from that? I mean, they might get a level of reputation in the pirate world, like, wow, Captain Crunch took out an entire Marine battleship. He's a real badass and part of a complete breakfast. You know what I mean? So that's cool. But now you're adding money into the issue. So now you're giving pirates and civilians and bounty hunters incentive to go after Marines, even if it's not that much money. And now we're going to get into the actual numbers, okay? So I was watching like O'Hara's video and Liam's video. So if you're going to compare the Marine admirals, the rough equivalent would be the Yonko in terms of bounty amount, okay? So the Yonko all have bounties in the billions. All right, Luffy's bounty is now 3 billion. Shanks, Big Mom, Kaido, they had all bounties over 4 billion. Whitebeard and Rogers bounties were over 5 billion. So if you're going to do the equivalency from Admiral to Yonko, then, Green Bull's bounty, Fujitori's bounty, then, Kizaru's bounty, they should all be around like 3-4 billion, okay? And then you have Sakazuki, who's the Fleet Admiral of the entire Marines, and like Garp, who is, the hero of the Marines, and then also you have like Sengoku, who's no longer the Fleet Admiral, but was the Fleet Admiral, still technically works for the government, works for the, the Marines. He's just kind of semi-retired. Those guys' bounties would all be in the multiple billions. Okay, 3 billion, 4 billion, 5 billion for Garp, stuff like that. Now, we sort of did see the wanted posters for the Marines in the chapters, this little panel where we saw a few examples, and they all seem to have stars on them. I think there was one that had like a crown shape. It was kind of hard to see. So it's not the same exact bounty poster as, with the pirates, where they actually have, like the number, like killer is worth this amount in berries, okay? There's like a star system and a crown, so various symbols. And for one thing, that was probably just Buggy wanting to like add a little bit of flair to it to make them distinct from the regular Marine wanted posters, okay? So it's going to add their own little flair. There's been a lot of theories with that each of the stars kind of corresponds to a certain amount of money. Like, for example, back at Dressrosa with Doflamingo when he issued that big, kind of the Hunger Games sort of situation there, where he trapped everybody into the birdcage, and it's like, bring me these people, for every star they're worth 100 million berries. And it was like, I think like Luffy was worth like 5 stars, so he gets like 500 million right there, okay? And so then that was like the citizens of Dressrosa were going to capture people to get a reward for it, okay, and try to end this like bloodshed and everything like that. So it's possible they could have like taken a page out of Doflamingo's playbook, and it's like, okay, each of the stars represents 100 million. I know like O'Hara made the theory, or maybe it was Liam, one of the two. I watched both of them like side by side, whereas like the crown might represent 1 billion berries, okay? And so then there's another discussion with maybe the stars in the crown don't really mean monetary amounts. Maybe they just amount to like the difficulty rank of the Marine. Like if it's Garp, for example, he might have like a bunch of stars or a bunch of crowns. Like he's really, really dangerous compared to like somebody who's like, I don't know, an ensign that's like the lowest officer of the Marines might only have like half a star or something, like not that dangerous compared to the other ones. It could be a situation like that. It could be their rank in the Marines issued like in the form of a star. But anyway, the big point here, and O'Hara brought this up in his video, is how much money does the Cross Guild exactly have? Okay? And you have to understand they are backed by a lot of underworld organizations, plus the fact I bet for the last 2 years, Crocodile has been doing nothing but gaining more and more capital. I think that's what he was really doing, lying low for the last 2 years, relatively speaking, and trying to get more and more money. Okay, and remember, Buggy took out a loan from Crocodile, all right? So that's where that money was, all right? And, Mihawk is there too, but I really don't think Mihawk has that much money. I honestly Hawk is broke for the most part. Mihawk kind of doesn't need money. He kind of just goes wherever he wants and does whatever he wants. He has enough strength that he does not need. He was squatting in the castle on Gloomy Island, he didn't have to pay. He's not going to pay for like, a tavern room or something like that, or like an inn or something. That's not how Mihawk rolls, okay? So I don't think Mihawk is bringing that much money to the table, but Buggy had some money that he got from Crocodile, and Crocodile is the main source of this money, right? Crocodile might have like wormed his way into the underworld and become like, let's say Dufeld might have actually died at Totland. We don't know for certain, but Dufeld's the one that like opened up the Tamete Bako, and it exploded with the bomb. So he might have very well died right there. You know how Oda doesn't like to kill off characters, so Dufeld might come back as like a cyborg Dufeld. So he might come back as like cyborg Dufeld, or like Darth Dufeld. He has like the Darth Vader mask, lowered. He takes the cigar and he's like, time to make some investments. It might be something like that. But let's say Dufeld did die and Crocodile sort of swept in and took over his organization, his conglomerate or whatever, and that's where a lot of the money is coming from. Even though that might be the case, and Crocodile has a lot of money on his hands right now, I don't think it's anywhere close to the amount of money the world government has, okay? You want to talk about wealth disparity? In the One Piece world, I guarantee you the world government has well over 90% of the entire wealth on the planet, because you got to think about this. Over 170 nations in the entire world are allied with the government, and that heavenly tribute tax every single year, that's not going to be slim pickings. That the Tenryubito are going to be asking for an absurd amount of money from each of these kingdoms every single year. And as Arlong in the Four Kids dub said, if you can't pay the cash, then you're out with the trash. That's going to be that. The Tenryubito have an insane amount of money, billions upon trillions of berries probably at their disposal. Now, with that being said, the underworld of One Piece definitely is very prominent, and they have a lot of underworld dealings and stuff like that as well. So they would have a few, billions berries of their, own money there. But I don't think it's anywhere close to the amount of money the world government has. So
to give you an idea a little bit on how much money the government does possess, or just to give you an idea on like the scale of money in the One Piece world a little bit here, I'm going to talk about berries, okay? And I'm going to talk about a few amounts, okay? So first things first, just to establish a baseline here, and I made a whole video about this, about berries and the money in One Piece, of how the system works exactly, how their economy is set up. So I think what Oda's really doing here is doing a 1-to-1 ratio from berries to yen, because it's just the way the numbers, turn out. It's very similar. A newspaper in the One Piece world. So one of the news coups paper that brings it to people, and you pay the seagull and they give you a paper. That's 100 berries, which converted from just berries to do a 1-to-1 to yen, and then converting yen to American dollars, which is, I'm an American, so that's the one I'm most, acquainted with. That would be about 75 cents for a newspaper, which is about the correct amount. Back when I worked at Dollar Tree, we would sell the weekday paper for like 50 cents. The Sunday paper would be like $1. I don't even know who reads newspapers anymore, but 75 cents for a newspaper, that seems fair to me. A cabbage is worth 150 berries in the One Piece world, so that's a little bit more than newspapers, like over $1, probably, or around $1. That's about right. So so that's just like small amounts. 100 million berries is about as much for a second-hand ship. Remember when the crew was at Water 7 and they lost 200 million of the berries they had to the Frankie family? They had 100 million left in one of the suitcases, and I think Iceberg or Khalifa, I think it was Iceberg, was like, hey, don't worry, 100 million berries, that'll still buy you a really good second-hand ship, like a used ship. All right, and there was like a catalog and everything like that. It was also stated at the auction house that 100 million berries is roughly the amount of money average for a devil fruit. Now, obviously, devil fruits are very unique. Some of them are more powerful. Obviously, the Gumu Gumu no Mi and the Op fruit are very rare and unique powers that a lot of people want, so they're worth more. In fact, we do know exactly how much the Op fruit is worth, and I'll get to that in a second. But just an average devil fruit, like an average price for a devil fruit, is around 100 million berries. Okay, so that's still quite a lot of money. So now I want to talk about two other amounts. First off is the amount for the Op fruit. So when Diaz Barrels, who was the father of Drake, had in his possession the Op fruit, he was brokering a deal with the Marines. The Marines, as an organization, were willing to cough up 5 billion berries to get their hands on the Op fruit. And that was a deal that was going to go through. Like, Sengoku confirmed it to Roshinade. That was a deal that they were going to do before Doflamingo and everybody got involved, okay? So 5 billion berries for the Op fruit, which is a crazy powerful fruit. We know it has the ability to grant the immortal surgery to everybody, the personality switch surgery. There's a lot of really cool stuff you can do with the Op fruit. It's kind of like, as what Doflamingo said, the amount of people that refer to this as the ultimate devil fruit, are not very few. A lot of people do consider it that. If I could have a devil fruit, I would probably pick the Op fruit. It's just like the best one, right? So 5 billion, that's about the same amount of money of Whitebeard's bounty. Whitebeard's was a little bit higher, but it was around the same amount. So this is like the amount of that. Okay, 5 billion. That's a lot of money. Then the largest amount of money that was ever mentioned in the One Piece world so far was 10 billion berries. This was the amount that Doflamingo offered to King Riku Dole III. He's like, hey, I will sell you the rights to Dressrosa that the Doflamingo family controls, or, the Don Quixote family controls from, days past and everything. I'll sell you the rights to it if you can provide me 10 billion berries. All right? And this is the point where we're reaching the amount of money that's like beyond the GDP of nations. Because King Riku Dole III, he was like, I don't have that amount of money. I could empty out all of the coffers in the treasury of, the castle of Dressrosa, of the entire kingdom. I don't have nearly that much money, okay? Every single citizen could pull out their pockets and give me all the money they have in their savings, and it probably wouldn't be enough. King Riku Dole III said, this is not the amount of money like one kingdom can provide. Maybe multiple kingdoms together could do it, but beyond that, I'm not going to be able to produce 10 billion berries in a single night to this guy. He still tried, and we see what happened with that. Doflamingo, even if King Riku Dole III could have produced the money, he still probably would have, Doflamingo would have taken over the country anyway. So now we're getting into to a level of money that is beyond the scope. And Dressrosa was a good kingdom. It was doing well under King Riku Dole III. It was not some kind of like poverty-stricken kingdom when King Riku was in charge, okay? It was doing fairly well, and 10 billion was even too much. I imagine the world government probably doesn't want each kingdom to have too much money. That's probably why. And also, you know, if the kingdom is doing well and they're producing a lot of, you know, exports and whatever, things like that, they're producing a lot of stuff and material, the heavenly tribute is probably a lot higher for that particular kingdom. You know, I'm assuming that's how they do it, because I don't think the Tenryubito want each individual kingdom to have that much money. So if we're getting into that realm now of like 10 billion is like just an absurd amount of money. If you converted 10 billion berries to yen to dollars, it would be around 75 million. And then the 5 billion for the op fruit would be around 37 million. It's an insane amount of money, okay? So I could see the Cross Guild getting their hands on maybe 1 or 2 billion. Okay, as like their total, like I could see that as like the total amount of their funds right now. Okay, like that's everything they have. That's everything Crocodile has, everything Buggy has acquired over his years. Mihawk, like I said, is not really bringing much to the table. So maybe like 1 or 2 billion. Okay, so my point is, they're not going to be able to issue bounties to Marines and just be handing out money like crazy. But I think what the smarter thing for them to do would be just to issue a bounty on Marines of lower level of maybe like 30, 40, 50, maybe upwards of 100 million. And money is an incentive here. So if you're a pirate and it's like, hey, there's a Marine lieutenant over there that has a bounty on their head of only like 30 million. 30 million is the bounty that Luffy had, his first bounty. 30 million's about, compared to like the berry to yen to dollars, is like 225,000. I'm like rounding up and down. So that's not that much money compared to like the billions and billions of berries that like the Yonko are worth, but it's like, it's better than nothing. So it's like, hey, if we would have beaten up and turned in that, you know, Marine lieutenant, we wouldn't have gotten nothing before. There's no incentive for us to fight the Marines other than just reputation, okay? But now, if we defeat that Marine lieutenant, we get 30 million berries. And I imagine the crew would be like, hey, man, money's money. You know what I mean? It's more money than we would have gotten beyond it. So now there's an incentive. Even if it, because you also have to remember, like, if you're just a regular civilian or a bounty hunter or just like a low-tier pirate in the One Piece world, like, you know, 30 million berries is still quite a bit amount of money. You know, you could still use that for stuff. It's not like complete chump change or anything, right? It's like, so I think that would be the smart move. Target the lower level Marines. Go after like the ensigns, the lieutenants, you know, aim for them. Sure, you can put bounties on really high ranking Marines like vice admirals and admirals to just kind of like inspire the pirates. Like, hell yeah, the Cross Guild. Captain Buggy, I knew he had it in him. Placing a bounty on a Kainu. Man, that son of a gun. You know, he's got to have some real balls to do that. That's kind of more of what it is. It's sort of like a morale boost to all of the pirates in the world. That it's like, hey man, the pirates are now getting their, you know, cut of the cake, so to speak. We're the ones that are spinning the world on its head, all right? You want to put bounties on us? We'll put bounties on you. No regular pirate would be able to, you know, fight against an admiral and bring them in. That's never going to happen. Or Garp, or even probably the vice admirals would be fairly difficult. But all those lower ranking Marines, all of the infantry Marines, like if you're just a lowly, you know, chief petty officer, or even if you're a low ranking officer like an ensign or a lieutenant or a, you know, like even like a commander or something like that, I'd say any rank lower than captain, you better watch your ass, because now all of these civilians, these bounty hunters, and these pirates of the world are going to be gunning for you just to get some more money. You know, oh, we defeated a Marine commander. All right, they go turn him into the Cross Guild. Cross Guild gives him, all right, that Marine commander was worth 80 million berries. 80 million as a bounty is not really that impressive anymore, but that's still like well over $500,000 if you convert it out. I think the pirate crew would accept that. Be like, hey, it's money, you know? Awesome. And it's more about like, I would imagine at this point it's more about like, yeah, we defeated the Marines and we cashed them in, you know, just like they've been doing to the pirates for years, you know, and I think that's really going to get a lot of people rallying behind the Cross Guild for that reason, okay? So I actually thought about it, and it's like, dude, the Cross Guild could very well put a bounty on the admirals that's like 2 billion for Kizaru, 4 billion for Sakazuki or whatever, 3 billion for Green Bull. They could do that. They might not have that much money. It's just the idea of like, okay, no one is going to be able to cash in that bounty. It's not going to happen. All right. So we're going to put a bounty on them just like as a symbolic thing. Garp has like, he's like, oh, if you bring in Garp the hero, we'll pay you 5 billion berries. And the pirates of the world will be like, yeah! And then meanwhile, Crocodile's like, yeah, we don't have nearly that much money, but, it doesn't matter. No one's going to be able to bring in Garp. What matters is we're rallying the pirates together. Now, obviously, that could backfire in a major way. Like, what happens if there is a really strong... I would imagine if there was a really powerful bounty hunter in the One Piece world, or a really powerful pirate that really hasn't made a name for themselves yet, like maybe they're really strong, but they're just starting out, so they don't have a huge reputation. If somebody did actually manage to haul in an admiral, okay, and it's like, hey, you Cross Guild said that if I brought in Kizaru, I would get 4 billion berries. Well, here he is. You know what I mean? Oh, you know what I think would probably start happening? And this is honestly probably something that already happens in the One Piece world, is if you have a bounty on somebody that's a lot of money, I can imagine bounty hunters like finding someone that kind of resembles that pirate, cutting off their head because it's dead or alive, and then just making them look like that person and dragging them into the Marines and being like, hey, yeah, you said, Diaz Drake, right? He's worth 222 million, dead or alive. Well, here he is. And it's just some dude they found, and it's like, they just styled his hair, painted on the scar, added the eye patch. He's like, yeah, here he is. I found him. I killed him. Here you go. And the Marines are like, yeah, it does look like Drake. What are they gonna do? They don't have like blood, tests or anything. It's like, yeah, that DNA's Drake. Okay, here you go. I guess they kind of do. Vegapunk exists, but you know what I mean? I imagine that happens a lot in the One Piece world. Kind of reminds me of like what happened in Game of Thrones Season 5, where Tyrion was on the run in Essos after what he did at the end of Season 4. Not going to spoil it, but Cersei really is gunning for Tyrion. Cersei really wants Tyrion's head, and so she issues like a bounty for Tyrion all across the Seven Kingdoms, and random sellswords all up and down the Seven Kingdoms of Westeros are bringing like the heads of like every dwarf they can find, because Tyrion's a dwarf, and she's like, yeah, we killed him, here he is. And Cersei's just like, no, that's not him. It's just like, but that would happen, you know what I mean? So I could see the same thing happening with pirates. Like, oh, okay, the Marines now have bounties on their heads. Okay, I'll kill some random dude that resembles Green Bull and just like style his hair and put on the sunglasses. Like, yeah, we killed Green Bull. Here he is. And it's like, where's my 4 billion? I think, considering that Crocodile is part of this, he would see through that shit instantly. But you would imagine people would attempt that. They would try that. Okay. Something else I also considered, because this was something that actually got addressed in an SBS revolving around pirate bounties, okay? So somebody asked a question, and I didn't pull it up, but I remember it vaguely, okay? So somebody could pull it up correctly, which SBS it was, which volume. But somebody asked Oda, like, what would happen if a pirate tried to sell out another pirate? Like, what would happen if a pirate captured another pirate and tried to cash in the bounty? What would occur? And Oda's response was like, oh yeah, that definitely happens, and the Marines actually trick the pirates. That's actually a method that they use, because it's like, oh, the pirates are going to get greedy and they're going to attack the other pirates and bring them in, and then we arrest both of them, okay? So the pirates cannot cash in the bounty for other pirates. That's not how it works. It's just like, hey, I have a bounty of I know I have a bounty of 20 million berries, but I captured this guy that has a bounty of 15 million, so here you go. Give me the money, and then, at least you have some pirate. They're just going to bring them both in. Now, what would happen with the Marines? Because we know that the Marines are corrupted in One Piece, and there's quite a few Marines that are very duplicitous and are way more on the side, like they act way more like pirates than Marines, okay? There's some Marines that are very noble, like Smoker and everybody, but then for every noble Marine like Smoker, there's always somebody that's like, Ratton or Rattle from the last chapter, that's just like, threatening to shoot an old lady unless they produce Whitebeard's fortune, okay? You know what I mean? There's a lot of Marines like that. So what if the Marines start turning on each other? This is like a no-lose scenario for the Cross Guild. This is brilliant, okay? Because it's like you're going to cause chaos in the world, because all the civilians, bounty hunters, and pirates are going to be now gunning for the Marines for a monetary reward because they're going to get something out of it. Also, the Marines themselves might become a little bit more like self-destructive, because now it's like there's a Marine that's maybe a little bit down on his luck, and he's like, you know what? If I turn in my superior officer, I'm going to get some money. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's just like, yeah, and you know there are Marines that would think about that, you know? You know what I mean? There would be Marines, especially if, let's say, oh God, let's say there's a Marine captain, okay, that's like the biggest asshole, like Morgan, okay? So let's just use Morgan for an example. Holy crap, that's perfect. Let's say that we're back at Shellstown. We got Captain Morgan. We got Commander Ripper. We got all of the poor people like Ukari and everybody that are under Morgan's thumb that are like so afraid of him and whatever. Let's say a bounty was issued on Morgan's head. And it's like, hey, you bring us Captain Morgan, we'll pay you, you know, 20 million berries, something like that. And what if the Marines, who already are afraid of him, already hate him, are like, you know what? Mutiny. All right, and then they all, like, Commander Ripper and everybody rises up and, like, goes after Morgan in his sleep, like, dead or alive, and then they haul Morgan into the freaking Cross Guild and they pay the money. Like, you could see that happening, especially on a ship where the superior officer of the Marines is just a complete asshole, just a complete jackass. It's just like, men, I want you to hoist the mizzenmast and bring me my food and shine my shoes and read me a bedtime story. You know what I mean? And be like, oh my God, I hate this freaking guy. Why couldn't we have gotten Hina? You know, I wanted Hina. She has this weird dominatrix thing going on. I'd be okay with being under her. It's like, yeah, I know, right? It's like, yeah, also, that too. And it's like, okay, but now we get this asshole that's just like, shine my shoes. Oh, remember Nelson Royale from the big giant, like morbidly obese dude from the Warship Island arc? Oh, dude, it's a good thing that he wasn't around. That guy's not canon when this bounty on Marines thing was issued. Holy crap. All right, I mean, so yeah, all these like Marines that are kind of treating their men like crap, you know what I mean? That are like, oh, they better watch themselves now, okay? Because this is ultimately going to cause the Marines to be distracted enough so the Cross Guild and the other pirates can kind of do their own thing. All right. Now, like I said, when it comes to vice admirals, they're going to be safe. They're not going to have to really worry about a lot of this stuff because they are genuinely very, very powerful. But this is kind of a no-lose scenario for the Cross Guild. They were already pirates. They were already criminals. So issuing bounties on Marines, it turns out all you really need to take down the Marines in One Piece is access to a really effective printing operation. Have access to the printing press and have the ability to spread the flyers all over the world. That'll actually really do it. Especially since we're in the end game right now, right? So yeah, sure. I have no problem with giving Green Bull and Fujitora and Kizaru and Akainu like 3, 4, 5 billion berry bounties, but that's not really what they're going to be going after. You're going to be going after the bounties for like 20, 30, 50, because the Cross Guild would be able to pay that out no problem. Also, if there are really strong bounty hunters, hey, I hauled in a Commodore. Wow, a Commodore. We'll pay you 300 million berries for that Commodore. Also, hey, random bounty hunter that brought in a Commodore, have you thought about joining the Cross Guild today? And that's how they get new recruits. This is like perfect. You know what I mean? I wonder who came up with the idea. I feel like, honestly, it was kind of a buggy idea. We should put bounties on the Marines. You could see that as a buggy idea. It was probably more of a Crocodile idea, but it would be weird if Buggy was the person to suggest it out of fear. Like Crocodile and Mihawk are holding the hook and the sword to him, and Buggy's like, hey guys, hey, I have a bunch of ideas to make money. We could put on a circus. It's like, okay, the circus is a bad idea. I know, how about we make a giant cake? Okay, no more cake. All right, I have an idea. What if we put bounties on Marines? Oh, I'm sorry, please don't hurt me. And then Mihawk and Crocodile are kind of like, shit, that's actually a good idea. Just then that's what they do. Oh my God, this is great. Ha-ha! Start rolling in the berries, okay? But yeah, you take out, like, kind of not the head of the Marines, but you kind of knock out their legs. You kind of sweep them on the ground, get them to fall on their asses. That's what you kind of do. You knock out the lower officers, okay? And then the Marines in the upper echelon are going to be so worried about their lower echelon getting knocked out, they're going to have so much, like, the Vice Admirals are going to be in so much chaos right now, because that's what's going to happen. The Vice Admirals are going to be like, Sir, Vice Admiral Momonga, Lieutenant and Captain, and, you know, lieutenant commanders and everybody and all the infantry officers, they're all getting hauled in by pirates, sir. It's awful. The Vice Admirals are going to have to worry about that. They themselves are not going to have to worry about being taken in, but, like, all of their subordinates are being taken into the damn Cross Guild and being killed and defeated, you know? That's the problem.
You know what I mean? Knock out the Marines from below, not from above, you know? Cut off their legs, you know? Anyway, that's that video. I didn't think of any rhino facts today. Sorry about that. But I hope you enjoyed the video, everybody. And yeah, if you have a specific Marine, you know, like Hina or Smoker, or who are they worth, you know, go comment down below. I feel like Liam and O'Hara kind of nailed that already with their individual videos, so go check those out. Thanks for watching. This will be Teching signing out. Later, everybody.